Like I mentioned in the last video all about dreams, your subconscious mind controls more than 95% of your everyday life. These are your thoughts, your actions, your beliefs, etc., etc. And yet, few people ever actually take the time to investigate what their subconscious mind is actually saying, what it's trying to convey to them through their dreams, through their intuition, and these other everyday instances that we all experience. Many of us let our unconscious mind control our life in ways that don't actually serve us, through negative self-talk, through impulsive behaviors, through immediately self-gratifying behaviors that feel good in the moment but ultimately hurt us in the medium to long term. These things that keep us stuck in the same patterns for days and weeks and years and years and years. So in today's video, I'll be talking about how you can communicate with your subconscious mind, some details about your brainwave states, and why it's so important to be doing this if you want to become a psychologically developed person, especially in modern times when that's really not a very common thing, all right? So let's begin. So as I briefly mentioned in the last video, I talked about dreams and how dream journaling is a great way to actually understand what is happening within your subconscious mind. But you don't need to do all that. I love doing it and I encourage you to do that if you're very interested in dreams, but that is not the only way to essentially bridge the gap between your subconscious and your conscious mind. There are many other ways. And the interesting thing is that all these other ways involve some sort of stillness, embracing stillness. And this is so important because when you can embrace stillness consciously, then you can intentionally slow down your brain waves. And look, there have been many research studies done on brain waves and how different states of mind come to be when you slow down your brain waves. So I won't go into all the details, but I'll tell you that there are four main brainwave states that you and I and everybody else experiences every single day. All right, so the first one is beta waves. This is your everyday waking consciousness, when you're in conversations, when you're doing specific tasks throughout the day, when you're listening to other people. This state of mind is essentially the ordinary, all right? After beta, we have alpha. Think relaxed states like daydreaming, like when you do slow, intentional breath work, like when you're essentially doing monotonous things that don't require much brain power and your mind just kind of drifts away. That is alpha brainwave state. The next brainwave state is theta. You can experience theta when in a pretty deep meditation, when you're hypnotized, when you are going into sleep or coming out of sleep. And this state is very powerful because that's when you can directly communicate with your subconscious mind. Now, in the last video, as I mentioned, I talked about dreams and specifically lucid dreams. When you enter a lucid dream, oftentimes your brainwave states are in theta, but you're maintaining that conscious awareness. And the fourth main brainwave state is delta. Think when you're in deep sleep, think when you're in a very deep meditation, which very few people will ever experience, and when you're getting anesthesia for some sort of surgery, all right? This is when your brain just goes poof, and you're gone. Your consciousness is somewhere else completely. Now, you experience all of these brainwave states daily, all right? You might not do them intentionally. You might only experience theta and delta because of sleep, and maybe you don't meditate or you don't do self-hypnosis or any of these other pretty fringe things that I tend to talk about. But the thing is, if you want to communicate with your subconscious mind more readily, with more accessibility and more understanding, then it starts with embracing silence. You have to intentionally slow down your brainwave states and tune into that frequency. I know that's a very woo-woo word, and I'm not trying to use it in a woo-woo way, but that's what it is. Think of your mind like a radio station, all right? Your conscious mind is one radio station. Your unconscious mind is like another radio station. You could essentially tune the frequency to get over to that unconscious mind state while maintaining your conscious awareness. That radio signal or frequency, it's always there. But if you're not tuned into it, then you're not able to hear what's coming through that station. And what's very fascinating to me is that nearly every philosophical or spiritual or religious organization from past times have talked about exactly this, about communicating with their subconscious mind by embracing stillness, being fully present in this very moment, by tuning into whatever that frequency is. And yeah, sure, they all went about it in different ways. Some schools of thought believe in breath work, others believe in deep advanced states of mindfulness. Other schools of thought believe in prayer. All different ways to get to essentially the same state of mind. There are monks and hermits and mystics and shamans and yogis and priests. All these people believed in the same principles. Yeah, sure, the way they got there was very different, and they believed in different higher powers, you could say, but the same principles applied. They understood the importance of embracing silence, looking inward, and tuning into whatever that frequency was within their own minds. And when you look back on all these different religious or philosophical texts, all these great thinkers talked about the symbols they saw, the stories they experienced, the non-human life forms, you could say, that they encountered. They all had pretty similar experiences. And yeah, I guess you could call it crazy, you could call it magical, you could call it fantasy or insanity, but I think this is a pattern. You know, all of these different schools of thoughts and these different teachers for believing in different ideas but the same principles, they all tapped into a different state of mind where they were bridging the gap between their conscious mind and their subconscious mind and perhaps whatever was beyond that. I don't pretend to know. I'm not a mystic. I'm not a shaman. But yeah, I think it's, to me, when I look back on all these different books, when I read these things and I see these videos and documentaries, I'm thinking these are all recurring patterns. And I truly believe anybody who's interested in exploring these things can do it for themselves. I don't think you need to be a part of a religious organization. I don't think you need to go live out in the woods all by yourself. I don't think you need to join a cult or anything like that. No. I truly believe that if you practice this stillness and this mindfulness and truly understanding what's happening within your subconscious mind, then you may experience these same exact things. And maybe you don't want to do all that. Maybe you're hearing me say this and you're like, all right, buddy, let's hold your horses. Let's take things a little slower. In that case, I totally get it. You don't need to do that. But maybe you're somebody who's like, all right, there are parts of me subconsciously that I want to better understand so that I can go about my everyday waking life in a more integrated manner. Okay, awesome. I'm in the same boat. So what I'll say is that the same principles apply. Maybe you just want a little bit more creativity, or you want to think more clearly or tap into your intuition, or you want to be more empathetic or a better speaker, or whatever it is. The same principles apply, all right? You're going to still embrace stillness. You need to be mindful of the moment you're in and actively look to understand what's happening beneath your conscious awareness. And these days, it's very difficult to actually do this because our minds are just so loud. We're always consuming more content. We're always researching. We're always listening and watching and essentially flooding our brains with more information from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to bed. But when this is the case, it's literally impossible to calm your mind down to the point where you can tune into that frequency that is your subconscious mind. So, yeah, if you're into all this stuff, if you're into tapping into your subconscious, becoming more intuitive, understanding what's happening beneath the threshold of your awareness, then you got to unplug from the noise. You really got to step back. You're going to voluntarily enter these different states of mind where you slow down your brainwaves. I know it sounds woo-woo and kind of crazy, but this really is how things are. So, yeah, if you want to think better, if you want to think more clearly, be more creative, and just operate on a different level for most people, then you're going to do the things that most people are not willing to do, which is embrace silence and step back from the noise. In the beginning, you will struggle. You will sit down, you'll close your eyes, maybe get into a lotus position, and 5 seconds will pass and your mind will just be blasted by a bunch of random thoughts. You'll say, oh shoot, all right, I gotta clear my thoughts. You'll do that. Another 5 seconds will pass and the same thing will happen. That is okay. Just cast those thoughts aside. Don't get mad, don't get frustrated. No, just accept the fact that your mind is racing. Notice those thoughts and cast them aside. All right? You do this every day for weeks, months, even years. Your intuition, your creativity, your critical thinking, your ability to connect insights from one area of life to another and bridge the gap become so much better, all right? I could go on and on about this, but at this point, I am ranting. And if you're still watching, thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.